John, I'll let you address that since you
Thank you.
brought that forward.
And thank you for putting it off until this meeting. I would like to suggest a different tack of looking at this. I have a different background than the majority of the members of the board, and I've grown up in very ethnically diverse areas in my life. And so what seems to be an absolute no-brainer to me, I don't believe is for the rest of our board. And what happened at the last meeting with the questioning and the framing and how this was being filtered with my fellow board members left me with a feeling that I would have to do some kind of an education on ethnic equity with the rest of the board somehow, and I don't think I'm qualified for that. But I have gone out and looked into people who are qualified to do that, and I thought that instead of moving forward with this policy like I thought we should quickly, I think it would benefit the board more to have some ethnic diversity or ethnic equity training from some qualified people, and there are a number of them out there. I've had suggestions from different groups for people who are versed in this to help the board better understand this policy, but why this policy and not something that's already federally mandated, which is a non-discrimination type policy, which Director Cass referenced. It's not the same thing. It's not just targeting an achievement gap. And it's difficult for me to explain because I have a different background. I understand it perhaps and thought that this was just a no-brainer. But I'd like us to pursue maybe some ethnic equity training to understand it better about why this policy.
I think you're making an assumption about the way that we all grew up and what kinds of communities that we were
I didn't
part
mean
of.
to offend you. I
No,
just
you're not
noticed
offending
from
me.
the
I'm just-
questions last
Yeah.
time that it gave rise to, it seemed a lack of understanding about why this policy, and it just was all over the board. And I thought, you know what? I think that I put the cart before the horse in saying this is a great policy. I think it would be better if we studied that. Bellevue is currently doing it, and I thought it was a good practice thought.
So, and I know you weren't able to attend our last day session, but interestingly enough, that topic came up more as the district as a whole, that type of training. So perhaps, I know that there's some talk at the district level of more of that, if I'm remembering that last day session. It was a long afternoon.
Yeah, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to catch up with Special Services Department because there was some great information that was shared during the study session that I think they will appreciate as well.
But maybe
So
we can, as a
connect
board, can
with
kind
her,
of
but yeah.
flow into that work that's already being done.
I would say too, before you know it, you'll be doing your own self-assessment and your goal setting for the coming year, and that might be
A natural outcome of that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Well,
I think that makes sense.
just to recap my memories from the meeting, and questions that I heard were not the necessity of improving on our existing policy and why that would be necessary, but I think from what I remember, the questions were more about how then we interact with other agencies in the area and how best to do that, because that's not something that we've done before. So I think it was more a process question than an intent, for sure. I remember being very in favor of doing it. She specifically referenced me by name, and I can think, just like Superintendent Francois reached out to the Islamic Center. I mean, our district is changing, and I think it's great for us to be proactive about it. Absolutely.
Right. I appreciate that. With the reactions from the last meeting, I just decided that I was pushing something, or felt like I was pushing something that the board just didn't really understand why. So, I mean, if the board is interested in adopting this policy, I'm still interested in it, but I would not mind then putting it off as Superintendent Francois says, to incorporate some background so that we are all understanding of why this kind of policy is even something of importance.
I remember the conversation more as Amy has reflected it. So it's all right with everyone if we put it on our radar for our board self-evaluation.
Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
I know that you were in favor of this policy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just put on my little notes that the diversity will continue to increase in our district, and so it's just important that we continue.
Absolutely.
And absolutely, Dawn, if you have any suggestions about the policies, you know, I mean, I don't, if we want to continue this discussion before we have a chance to do that, let's absolutely do it. If there's language in the policy, the conversation would, on the other side, say that perhaps our policies need improving, which we can definitely do that. But if it's better to wait to have the training first, then I'm open to that as well.
It just felt like that was probably more beneficial. I mean, I think it would be.
All right. So there's nothing further on this than, that's what I'm hearing, is that correct? Okay.
I think so.
So the next item on the agenda is board policy number 4220, Title I Parent Involvement. Any questions or?
Yeah, I had a question actually. So just a point of clarifications. It seemed, you know, like a lot of cleaning up and reorganizing language. I did notice one change in that the line stating the board shall review the parent improvement plan was removed, and just wondering why that would be.
I don't think it was so much about that. I think the intention was once adopted, actually the parents, when they went through this, a couple different iterations, were most focused on once adopted, making sure that it was really public, translated, and accessible. So I don't think it was so much that they would be concerned with including that review. I know this is kind of on like a 3-year cycle. I don't think that was the intention, was to leave the board review out of it so much as once adopted, they focused much more on the communication of the plan. So if that was put back in, I don't think it would be a conflict.
Well, you know, I was just
Yeah.
asking about it because
I didn't even notice
oftentimes
that till you pointed it
we're asked by the state or the feds to review these things.
It's a
And I just
common
want to see
practice.
perhaps that was a change in the law or.
So that'd be an easy one to leave in there, and once reviewed and adopted, then
Right.
Those two sentences together, though, are somewhat redundant, so can that be
yeah,
cleaned up?
absolutely.
What does it mean by via multiple means? So I understand that means giving the information, but should we be more specific in that language? Like giving in a lot of our policies, we give examples. I don't know.
Yeah, and they specifically talked about making sure that there was a web presence and it was going through the schools, so that it was coming out more than once, and that it was visible that there was like this invitation to participation. So I think it could be as simple as through school announcements as well as district web page. Rather than, a lot of our parents wouldn't have access to board policy and procedure, so finding a way to actually lift it out and have it easily accessible as an invitation.
Would that potentially include translated versions? into
Yeah,
different languages?
definitely, that was part of the conversation. So I think that's what they were trying to encapsulate in the multiple means, and it could be articulated, just kind of spell out a couple of the different ways, such as, but not limited to.
Right.
Mhm.
And actually, to Amy's point, we essentially are setting the parameters of the plan through this policy. So is it redundant for us to be reviewing the parent improvement? I mean, the parent involvement plan is sort of the next step after we do the policy.
This is the overarching, and then each school
Right,
has a very
right.
specific plan that the parents review. So that's, we were trying to keep it fairly general, so that it was the umbrella saying this is really important, and each school will involve their own parent groups.
And I particularly appreciated the embellishment to, or the robust point F, or the I think that's
Parent
a lot of
spent
what
a
we
lot of
talked
time
about,
on
and
that.
yeah, I really appreciate that, there's a lot
That's
of
why I
great
think-
language in there.
Sorry, that's why I think adding, doing that under the multiple means helps.
Mhm.
It's doing the same thing essentially as what you did in F.
Call that forward, just be specific.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that doesn't have to be as long as that, but it kind of allows for the same
Maybe some such as is there.
visual.
Yeah,
such as.
context for it.
Yeah.
Could you speak to E, provide opportunities for parents to be involved in an annual evaluation of the content and effectiveness of the policy, as opposed to involving parents in an annual evaluation? Those are two very different things.
In the annual evaluation, the way I captured that conversation, remember, it was just having more than one opportunity.
And so that's a change that is in the law, so to provide opportunities as opposed to involve.
Correct. At the school level, they do provide multiple opportunities, such as they might survey and also maybe have a coffee talk group, or so the ways to reach out in multiple ways or having more than one opportunity reaches different parent groups. So this would just be kind of the operating procedure saying, hey, schools, make sure it's not just a one-time thing.
Of course, it also means you don't have to involve them. You just have to provide opportunities.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that was not their intention for sure. It was the
Well,
opposite.
Because that's what the language says.
Okay, so
So how will that?
I would come back possibly, I think, is this a first read?
Yes, it is
So-
first reading.
Make sure we address that.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
I mean, not having to involve them, but just having to provide opportunity, that's just a really different thing. So, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that would be the opposite of their intention as well.
I would think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or changes? And how does the board feel about that sentence after H, the board shall review the parent involvement plan? You want that sentence back in?
I believe they made a valid point. I would prefer it back in. That's what you were saying, correct? I like it back in.
I'm in favor of it as well. I'm wondering what other people are thinking.
Just want to clarify since
Yeah.
we've had several things. So you'll just fix that.
You bet.
Make them comparable. Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is board reports and communications, future agenda items.
I have some.
Okay.
Okay, so my first one is my idea for socializing with a guest, with the wine tasting, Sunday, March 15th. Cindy kindly sent out the note, and Cindy and her husband can attend. I heard back from Kimberly, so I was just checking to see if that date.
Mark's birthday that day.
Well, no, then this is why we're discussing.
No, this is good.
This is good? He would enjoy this?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. To
And
start
you
at
won't get
2
a choice.
o'clock. To start at 2 o'clock and
Happy
three
birthday.
wineries.
As I said in the email, I'm very uncomfortable with the entire concept of the socializing with the board. I believe that goes back to my initial years on the board when that was discouraged, and even though it certainly wasn't a wine tasting that I suggested, but just getting together was, I was told that was not what the board did, so I have a little uncomfortability with it, and my husband he lives out of town. So we're not really available for mixed socializing.
So we have a different board now. We have checked and it is definitely legal. It's not a problem. We can't discuss district business. We certainly are able to socialize with one another, so.
And I apologize if I wasn't clear. I mean, I've heard you reference when your husband's able to come visit, and I was hoping we could schedule. That's why throwing out a date as a idea. I was crossing my fingers.
Our
it would
schedule's
work.
pretty crazy.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be.
Oh, heavens no, heavens no. Yeah, your daughter would be
Okay.
fun.
I'm just, it makes me uncomfortable. I'm not interested in it. Thanks.
So
So, but
15th,
yeah,
does that work?
March 15th at 2 is the proposed time.
That's great. from my perspective. It's on my
Okay.
calendar, I
All
wrote
right,
it in pencil.
2 o'clock? Works a little better for Janet to start at 2. And then I'll go make the reservations, and we can even, if it it'll have to be arranged ahead of time, we can publish where we're gonna be at what time it's gonna be on the schedule. We're gonna hit 3 winners. Absolutely, absolutely, so very out in the open, but I'll go ahead and start talking to wineries to make.
That probably would be wise to publish it, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't see why we couldn't.
It's, I think the wineries
Nothing.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know, right? We could maybe get a group discount, you never know. Okay, thank you guys. And there's something else I wanted to bring up. This was an idea that was tossed out during the conversations with the board at Inglemoor, which I thought was a great idea, so I wanted to bring it up now. So as I just want to explore the possibility of doing some semi-annual high-level financial reporting. The point made was, as the boundary plan was brought out and everyone agrees that the district has been very supportive of bond and levies in the past, and the part of the proposal was to start looking into doing a supplemental bond for another school up north that reported on how the bond that was approved, how it's going, how the money's being spent.
Do we not do that through the community magazine? I've seen.
We have at different times, not semi-annually.
Well, the idea being it doesn't have to be every month. It could be very high level, perhaps a quick, for folks who don't dig down to find the financial reports in the agenda and perhaps aren't comfortable with balance sheets, a quick, like a three PowerPoint slide kind of idea. Just a report on how the capital projects are going, the tech bond is going, just how the levy money is being spent as a way of being accountable for the money.
To put it on a website?
So you're
To put it,
suggesting
yeah.
having it on the agenda for
Or no, to
a
put
board
it more
meeting
on the-
semi-annually, or?
No, to put it on the website.
It's more
To make it
accessible.
easier to access in a format that's very simple to read and get a snapshot from.
Would it work just to develop the practice of placing the monthly capital projects reports and the quarterly technology levy reports that the board receives on the website? I mean, we've made those about as, they kind of give project status updates, expenditures to date, total project costs. I mean, those are, seems like that's kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Okay.
And where the, how the levy money helps fill out the funding that we don't get from the Olympias. I think it's just a great way of being proper stewards of the money.
So is that a future discussion? What was that?
It was,
It
That
was a
was a-
suggestion?
It's a
an
suggestion
idea?
that doesn't really require the board. You're making a request of staff, I think.
request of
Yeah.
staff, exactly.
You
And
know,
if we already have the information, right, it's more about just putting it in a place that's easy for people to find and letting them know it's there. It's a pretty simple request, really.
It's just future agenda items. I'm just questioning, what are we supposed to do with that? Are we deciding, yeah, let's do that all at once? As a suggestion?
If board members are in favor of it, there's no, there's not a vote.
So it's not
We're not
future then?
voting, it's just a, Amy was looking,
I guess
I'm
we'll-
gonna put words in your mouth, but I think you're looking for an opportunity, in the rare times that we have an opportunity to get together, the meetings are it, to voice something that you would like to see happen.
To get feedback on it.
Yeah. So there's, it's not really the public isn't gonna be negatively impacted, it's not gonna be anything that we need to vote on. I think that we can just, if we're in agreement that that's what we would like to do, then staff will just do that.
I don't know if I'm in agreement with it because I hadn't even thought about it. It's just kind of sudden and I'm seeing it just kind of happen. So that's not our,
Then
We
maybe
can certainly put it
maybe
on.
then maybe it should be a future agenda item?
If you need time to think about it, we can
yeah,
certainly put it on.
I mean, if we're going to say it's a future agenda item, then I'd like us to kind of stick to the protocol of saying, okay, it's a future agenda item. Not to say that I'm opposed to it, I just, it's sprung suddenly. I'd just like more conversation and time to think about it.
Well, I think it could go also within a bigger conversation, which I think you're bringing up a really good point. It can go within a bigger conversation on a future agenda item about making information more easily accessible and kind of what are some things that maybe we feel should be more accessible on the website. Like I was talking about Leader Start information, you're talking about finances. You also talked about making a mini PowerPoint so people could understand it better, like a 3-page one, which
Right,
might be a good
right.
idea that we could discuss at. Okay.
I'm open to
Kind of
that
along
idea.
with the transparency.
It was a great suggestion
I like-
that
I
this
like
community
it.
member brought up, and I wanted
It
to
is. a good
not
suggestion.
wait until, our debrief and the conversations that's going to take place in a couple months. I wanted to bring it forth a little earlier.
I think incorporating it into a larger conversation about the things
I got
that I'm hearing is.
Got it. Thank you.
I'd like to add, maybe to that even, just to bring this back up. I've brought it up before a few times. I'd like to bring it up again, that we heard from one of our employees tonight, Nancy Chandler Brown, that board intentions are not widely known through the community. And so that resonated with me. Once again, I'd like to suggest that we do record our meetings and post them to the website. I've asked for that before. If that can be thrown in on that in an effort of transparency and conversation, I would appreciate that.
Adding it to that.
Adding it, I think it's a nice add.
What makes it nice if that's we can.
We're adding it.
We're
Yeah,
incorporating
got
that as part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I have that as an.
I have 2 separate things, but
I have it under a general topic of information accessibility.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll put that as a discussion item at the next meeting.
much more succinct than what I wrote down, so thank you.
Great,
I think these conversations will be good because it helps us as board members to direct people where to find the information. You know, if you want to know what was said in a study session, we can direct them to the information. I find it
Okay,
helpful.
Thank you.
anything else? See?
Yeah, 7 periods. I think we need further discussion about 7 periods and the cost involved in that. I don't think that necessarily has to work hand in glove with the change to schedule, but I would like to have further information and conversation. I feel that it's important. It's an important thing we need to add for our children, so I would like to know where we're going with adding on to that 7-period option, regardless of what budget is decided on at the state level and what movement is going on in that arena, but also what costs are. I would love that conversation. Thanks.
That's been a topic that's been expressed by pretty much all of the board members, a desire to expand the 7th period options for the high schools. So, noted, thank you. All right, moving on, we will move to board reports. Amy?
Not much more to add over Larry's comments about schedule. I was, enjoyed the Bear Creek visit, as always. Always wonderful to see the teachers and programs in action. Enjoyed the conversations with the board. I continue to get good feedback. I'm glad we put that in place this year. And the boundary open house at Whittingville last night went really well. It's amazing how much staff support was there. And all the parents that I talked to, they all got their questions answered, or submitted the form. Worked out great.
Great. Sandy?
Hanks is calling me.
Oh, yes.
God, I'm in the middle of a board meeting. How quickly we forget. I can't wait. My 3 highlights, I guess, I attended 2 solo ensemble competitions, one at the junior high level and one at the high school. And the junior high one is an in-district one, so again, a big thank you to Leota for organizing. It's a huge amount of work for that school to put that on. And just to kind of emphasize once again the value of that experience for our kids to perform not only as a solo, but the ensembles, but the educational value of leadership and group work and all those things that we spend so much time, it's really a great opportunity for them to practice that in those experiences. So thank you for providing that opportunity for all of our kids. And I'll shorten this up. And then also just echo what Amy said about the great open house that happened last night. I thought not as many people attended perhaps as we envisioned, which I think is a good thing. I think most people feel they're getting the information they need, but wonderful support from all of the members, both of the EDTF and administrative people that were there answering the many, many questions that did come. So look forward to the one on Thursday night at Waffle. And then my last is, I know there are 3 of us that are attending WASDA Day down in Olympia, and I believe we've all been invited to the large district caucus meeting that happens Sunday morning. Felt like maybe we didn't need to all inundate the caucus by all 3 of us attending. I know that the issues they're
It's
bringing
not
up.
an inundation. I think that they would prefer that at this point, so I think it'd be great.
Well, I guess then I was checking to see how many of us were planning to attend that for, if all 3 of us were going.
I'm intending to.
Yeah, I want to learn how the process works. I think it's important.
So the
So
2
this
of you
is-
will definitely be attending?
Yeah, to clarify, Sandy's talking about the caucus. You are.
It's Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Okay.
What time is that on Sunday morning?
It's at 10:30. So,
I may not be down there for that. but,
yeah.
I assume that it's open to.
It definitely is open.
Yes.
I traveled with Brenda
What
Rogers
do you mean by
and
inundate?
Well, I didn't know, I'm not as familiar as Donna is with this new caucus, so I didn't know if they wanted a huge representation from one board or preferred to just have one member. But
The preference is
a
that
huge inundation it is.
as many as are interested in getting involved in the conversation.
Okay.
better.
Great, good.
That's the caucus feeling, and that's why they went with caucus instead of committee.
Okay. So 2 for sure, and I'm still undecided.
it will be important to advertise that, obviously.
Yeah.
If all 3 are going, so be sure to let Sandy know.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn?
So I had an extremely busy schedule the last couple of weeks, but I was actually in town and able to attend the winter powwow with by invitation from the group that we contract with. It's a pretty long name. I'm not sure. Do you remember what it's called? It's out of Lake Washington is where Mary Wilbur is the woman that runs it, but we contract among
Yes.
the,
Yeah.
yeah. So I received, my children are Native American, as I indicated on some form at some point, and I received information from them for years inviting me to the various things, and my children, and I was able to attend a powwow, just really great, had a lot of fun. That was my one thing that I was able to do, other than the things you actually saw me at, the things you didn't see me at, I was out of town.
Kimberly.
Went to Bear Creek. I was so impressed with those kids with that musical. Like
They do a musical?
they did a
Of
musical
course, I missed
for
this.
I mean, I honestly
Willy Wonka?
probably wouldn't have driven all the way out till Timberlake to go to that. Now my whole family's going to be going.
Oh, yeah.
So it was amazing. Like I was just like, it made my day. So that was
Was it in
wonderful.
Bear Creek?
It was at Bear Creek. I mean Bear Creek, I'm sorry.
Really?
I probably wouldn't have driven all the way out there
Yeah.
on a Friday night. But now I'm going with my whole family. Mark too. He doesn't know yet though. A couple things he doesn't know he's doing yet. And then conversations with the board. We had some Hispanic community members attend. And I want to bring up that conversation again, that we actually go to the Hispanic community and hold the conversations with the board. So we had our community, because you weren't at that one, Janet.
Right.
We had our community, who's the person that was there translating?
Elizabeth Mason.
But she is with the
National
community,
leaders.
natural leaders. So she was translating and made it a little bit difficult because we were split up, Janet, and we had like a kind of a side conversation with everyone who could speak English over here and a side conversation. And so I was trying to pay attention to that conversation. And then Amy was in the same group as me and she was kind of, but so it was a little awkward, so it would be nice, I think, if we could possibly get on the agenda before the end of the year. I know we have so much going on. Maybe all of us don't need to be there. You know, maybe, I don't know that we need all 5 of us, because it might not be a huge group. Maybe just,
Yeah, definitely.
so,
Yeah, I hear you.
and then maybe next year we can extend to, like what you're saying, go to the East Indian community and Hispanic, but they were so engaged, and it's just so important, as we've all been saying.
Weren't we checking with natural leaders to see what would be?
Yes, Leanna is meeting with natural leaders to have conversations with them about what kinds of structures and opportunities would be most receptive. Right now, we're focused primarily on the upcoming boundary meeting that we're targeting for Woodmore on March 2nd, and had some really good feedback from the folks who were in attendance last night, looking at how things were structured last night and how we should structure them differently, specifically for that meeting to meet the needs of Hispanic families.
So
And especially
natural-
for later start, like you talked about coming up, and we didn't get good representation from that community. I mean, I think it'd be critical this year before next year to fit it in somewhere.
The natural leaders were there last night in force, getting kind of a preview of what the EDTF present, or the open houses look like, and as Larry said, they provided some great feedback on how to restructure it for their community. And hopefully we'll get some good attendance for that as well. But, yeah, to be determined about the conversations with the board.
Maybe we can put that on the agenda and see if we could come to some consensus next.
Well, it's not us, the leaders need to get
Back with you, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Anything else? Right. I, as you know, was in Washington DC at the NSBA Advocacy Institute, which I have to agree with John, they changed it. Apparently they changed it last year. The conference itself was less than thrilling, less than, they could have made it a lot more in-depth on some of the issues. But we did have an opportunity to talk to all of our legislators back there, and had some great conversations. Patty Murray is talking to Senator Alexander, who had written the reauthorization ESEA bill. And they're in talks daily, so I remain optimistic even after going to DC, and intend to keep in contact with the legislators back there. I did also have an opportunity to go to the Department of Education. I'd been lobbying for that for a few years, and I was able to go this time. And we were in a little windowless room, and they rotated staff in and out of it in half-hour increments, and we talked about tribal issues, early learning, student discipline, ESEA reauthorization, IDA funding, and STEM and CTE programs. And it was really a great opportunity to kind of get their perspective a little bit, but also for them to hear some of what we were, some of what our challenges are and some of the practical sides of it. One thing that came out of it was that the reason that they started the Race to the Top grants was because they didn't have enough money for everything. So that was a way for them to provide a little bit of money. It just tweaked my perspective a little bit, so it was interesting.
Was all of the Washington group allowed to go to the Department of Education meeting?
No, it was a much smaller delegation.
And that was one of my criticisms that I sent a letter in about, the fact that you were included could have had something to do with the letter that I sent criticizing the practice, that it was a cherry pick kind of thing about which representatives from Washington were selected to
I
go
think-
to that. I believe
Yeah.
that that invitation isn't extended to everyone, and that's a bit of a disappointment, to say the least.
It is not extended to everyone. The room isn't large enough to accommodate everyone.
I think there's probably a bigger room at the Department of Education.
Yeah, you know, that it would have been problematic with more, we had a lot of people in there, and it would have been, the more people you get in, the less effective, I think, the conversation becomes.
Those are reasons to not be inclusive. But
The reasons to
I've
what?
already voiced that opinion with them, and I believe that they should be more inclusive. with all members of the Washington Convention.
Yeah,
But
well, you're talking to the wrong person.
That's why I asked, I
Yeah.
just was hopeful that they had changed that practice.
No, it was mostly WASDA board members. I think they had been excluded from it in the past.
Some of them, yeah.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was mostly WASDA board members. But like I said, I've been lobbying for it for a few years, asking to be included, and was, if you had any influence on it, I'd appreciate it.
I don't know, I was just hopeful when you said that you were included after lobbying, that they had changed that practice.
Yeah, definitely not everyone went. I did bring some information back from all of you to share. Conversation about the reauthorization of ESEA was, David Eisinger wrote a letter that was then presented to all of the legislators. I chose to write a little bit different letter from our board. And if that wasn't included in the last week's briefing, I'll make sure that it gets put into this one. But I will give you, these are his letters. Larry's already seen it, so there's a copy for each of you. And then there's an issue brief on each of the topics in case any of you would like to also talk to members of Congress. But in general, there's a feeling like there are conversations going on. I think there are a few differences of opinion, but the message that we brought was that they just need to get it done. And I remain hopeful even after talking to them, so that was good. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I met with Sandy from the Fairfax County School Board and found that to be very valuable. Attended the boundary change open house last night, and I defer to staff on the way it was structured. I think it was really the right way to answer the people's questions, and so I appreciate all the thought and everything that went into it. It was really great. So.
How many people attended that?
What did we say, about 30 or how many? You said how many hits on the district boundary?
Last Thursday, we had about 12,000.
Yeah.
I would say last night there was between, I would say 50 to 75 people there last night would be my estimate. In and out, it's an open house, so some people stayed for a long time, some people buzzed in, buzzed out.
And I think you said there were about 140 comments that came
That's what
that
Lana
will
told me
come
earlier,
to
about
us
140
as
total.
well.
Is that just from that night, 140 comments, or?
No,
No.
since January 31st.
Oh, that's actually lower than I expected.
Yeah, it's the work that, I'm so grateful to the Enrollment Demographics Task Force for the work that they've done on our behalf
Very good.
and continue to do on our behalf, so.
Could
All right,
you
I have
clarify,
a
is
few.
this David Eisinger's letter, or is this your letter?
That one is David's letter.
Okay. Were we going to receive a copy of yours?
Yeah,
In the
as I
board
said,
briefing?
if you haven't already received it, I will
Okay.
make sure that it gets into this. It's a similar themed, but a little bit different approach. But let's see, let me find the notes. We had a conflict, I think, that those of you who are going to national conference, there's a conflict, potential conflict with the March retreat, March 24th retreat. Are you planning to be back for that, or do we need to reschedule?
Aren't we? I thought we were back the day before.
If you are back the day before and
It's the
willing
night of, but I
to
don't-
attend, then that would be
I just don't
fabulous.
think that we can change it because we're never going to change it.
I know, it's
That's the
complicated for
problem.
sure. But if you're not going to be here, obviously, we're going
So
to.
we'll,
When is our flight back?
on
I thought it was,
that, I think it's
That
the
day?
night before,
I thought it was the night.
the night, yeah, the night before the
Okay.
retreat. I
Well-
think Monday.
Okay.
So it's
All right.
like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back Monday. Haven't been
We
thinking that
have
hard.
updates from the grade reconfiguration task forces. We have middle school staff and program implications, superintendent evaluation. That's what I should. Um,
As usual, more than we have time for.
I mean, the only conflict I can see with it being the superintendent evaluation is if there might be a lot of work that needs to be done beforehand, and then we're going to be gone.
I think it's more of a progress update from Amy and I.
Oh,
on where
okay.
we're at.
That's fine. So otherwise, I don't think we can really get on.
All right, so I'm seeing that we will retain that date, which is much simpler. Thank you. And then our annual self-evaluation is rolling around again, and we're scheduled to do that at the March 26th retreat. And in advance of that, you'll see a survey from WASDA. That same thing that you saw last year, maybe a little bit more context this year. And that will be live between the 4th and the 15th of May. The results will be in the May 22nd board briefing, and then we'll have an opportunity to discuss it on the May 26th retreat. Sound good?
You initially said the March 26th, you meant?
No, we're done with the March one. March
24th.
24th was the retreat, a different one. So this one is in May. This is our
Right,
board
okay.
self-assessment.
Okay.
May 4th through 15th, that survey will be live. Okay?
Okay.
Reminder that tomorrow night is the College and Career Readiness Satellite Open House at 7 o'clock, 7 to 8 o'clock at Bothell High School Commons. And if you would like to interact with some lovely students who are involved with those programs, it's a great place to be. And then again, the EDTF open houses, we've got the 12th, which is Thursday. Sandy and I are scheduled. The 25th at Skyview Junior High. 12th is Bothell. Skyview Junior High on the 25th. 26th is Englemore. And the 2nd of March is Sandy and I at the Spanish version. Sandy and I are scheduled to go to all of those, and I don't think Cindy has heard from you or.
What day is the Spanish version?
March 2nd is Tuesday, Monday.
Back that day? From what? From.
So if you can let Cindy know whether or not you'll be able to attend, that would be great.
I would like to go to Skyview because that's the one in my neighborhood, so I can hear what people in my neighborhood are talking about, the boundary change, and I think we might get a lot more people at that one. And the one to the Hispanic community, but we're going to be coming back that day, so that starts at 7.
The
I just
March
need a
4th one
refresh on
is,
the dates.
the March 4th is at Woodmore, 4 to 6 p.m.
I just need a refresh on all the dates. If you could fire those off to me,
They're
I
in-
would appreciate it.
They're
In the board briefing? Okay.
I think they're in this week's briefing.
Okay, great.
What was, I'm sorry,
They
what
were-
was the Skyview
They
date?
were in last week's.
Yeah, yeah, last week.
So Monday right
Okay.
after.
Then I've got it. That's
The
fine.
25th.
12th, 25th, 26th, all at 6 p.m. March 2nd at 4 p.m.
I'll look at it
It's
now.
March 2nd at 6 p.m.
Yes, they're all at 6 p.m.
I have 4 to 6 p.m. No, that's not correct. Okay. I have it right in my calendar, but wrong. Okay. And then the March 4th coordination meeting, Sandy and I have career day that morning at North Shore Junior High, so we probably should talk about changing the time for that.
Even if you can move it back half an hour to an hour, that would be
11:30 or
11:30,
12.
What day was it?
That is March 4th. I have Amy and Sandy, but I'm available that day, so I'm not sure. Okay, good.
I have
I mean,
Jen
I
and
don't,
Sandy.
not good that you're not
We're
going
moving
to
it-
be. Good that we don't have a complication.
Moving
Okay.
it to noon or 11:30?
I would say noon is probably wiser.
Okay.
Well, coming.
Got it.
Does that work?
Yep.
And the last thing is, please let Cindy know if you want her to register you for the All In for Kids luncheon that we heard about on April 17th for NSF.
April 7th.
April 7th, sorry, April 7th.
So I will be there.
Yeah, me too. And Dawn will get back to you, is that right?
I have to reset, I have to look at the calendar.
Yes. So all, 4, yes, and Dawn will let you know. All right, and that's all I have. We'll adjourn this meeting and meet at 6:15. What room?
101.
In room 101.